At Lifehack Coaching, we help women over 35 to balance hormones naturally, boost metabolism, and lose weight sustainably.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to introduce you to Allanah Casey. She is a clinical psychologist. Allanah has lots of knowledge and experience working with individuals navigating mental health challenges, including anxiety, stress, trauma, and also working with women going through perimenopause and menopause. Allanah's warm, empathetic approach has helped so many to feel understood and also feel supported going through the toughest time of their lives. And so I'm thrilled to have her here today. Welcome, Allanah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Cool. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I really wanted to chat to you about women that's going through perimenopause and menopause and what challenges they're experiencing. I know firsthand myself, when I hit perimenopause, my first sign was actually anxiety and panic attack. And when I went through that journey, I was told it's not perimenopause, it's too early because I was 37. It's you're just hormones after having kids, or you're just stressed at work, or whatever else happening in life. So
it's such a common part, and some of the research says that women find the mental health side of it, the mental health symptoms, much more distressing than the physical things like hot flushes. And it's so not talked about to anywhere near the extent. And often people are really surprised. Oh, is this part of menopause, perimenopause? And so pleasure to get to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. So a lot of women in their 30s and 40s begin to experience anxiety and stress and burnout. It seems to be even more common now. Maybe it's more common because we talk about it. So how can women recognize when those feelings are becoming unmanageable, and what some of the first steps that they can take trying to begin to sort this out?
Yeah. So the first thing I use as a bit of a rule of thumb is this getting in the way of your life? Is it starting to impact the things that you do or don't do, saying no to social events, for example, or feeling like you don't like the person that you are when you're snapping at your partner or your kids or the people you care about? Those things are my benchmark, that actually this is not just a bad day or a bad week. This is becoming a problem. This is not the life that I want, not the person I want to be in my life. And so that awareness is a really important place to start, to stock take and say, okay, what does this look like? So that's where I suggest most people start. One of the things that I do with every client who comes and sees me, the first session is a stock take. What is it that's working in your life and what is it that's not working in your life? But you don't need to see me to do that, right? You don't need a psychologist or a counsellor to do that. You can do it for yourself. To sit down, ideally in a calmer moment, maybe with a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, whatever your jam is, and reflect on, okay, what is it that's going on for me right now? What is it that's working? What is it's not working? And what are my goals? What would I like to be different if I could sit back in 6 months and feel proud of where I'd got to? What would I want to be different? That's a really important anchor place to start.
Just a little bit off the topic, like why women starting to experience the mental health declining during this stage of life? Like why? Why not in 20s? Why now?
Why in this, and one of the challenges of this kind of perimenopause midlife phase is that life is really difficult and demanding, right? A lot of women are parenting kids still. They might be helping support aging parents. They are often in busy, demanding times in their careers. It's a lot all happening at once. And so that can be stressful and overwhelming in and of itself. But you throw on top of that the hormonal changes that, in your example of your own experience, is a good one, right? That can happen before it's supposed to. How dare I start at 37, right? And changing estrogen, particularly estrogen, there's estrogen, progesterone and testosterone all change. And so it's quite a hormone soup, but particularly changing estrogen has an impact on every system throughout our body. It's not just our reproductive system. And so one of the systems that's really impacted by those changing estrogen levels is our nervous system. And so the ways that we have regulated our nervous system to feel calm sometimes don't work anymore. We are more reactive to stress with changing estrogen. Stress can affect us much more significantly. It can be harder to find things that calm our nervous system and our bodies down, which leaves us more open to stress, anxiety, overwhelm, burnout. Estrogen also plays a role in serotonin in our brains. Estrogen helps to create more serotonin, which helps us to feel calm and happy. And so the roller coaster of hormones that happens in perimenopause really leaves us vulnerable to these changes in our mental health. And many people also experience problems with sleep during menopause. And so if you're not sleeping well, that is also kind of a bit of a tipping point to then struggling with more mood, anxiety, stress, overwhelm.
Yeah. So we experience mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, all of this cool stuff.
Yeah. Lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. What strategies or tools do you have or do you find the most useful or effective for women that are going through this phase in their life?
Yeah. So given what I've just said about the nervous system and the important role of the nervous system in this, my place to start with everyone is in tools that help to calm and cool down your nervous system. So things like breathing, for example, it's a really common advice that people have heard, but often we struggle to do things like really good regulated breathing. So doing breath work or breathing exercises, doing relaxation practices. For some people that can be mindfulness or muscle relaxation type practices, but also getting out and walking in the bush or getting in the garden. Those are good relaxation practices too. Whatever is your version of calming and relaxing your nervous system. And so really making space for those practices. Starting with your senses is a really good way to do this. What is it that you find soothing to look at, to listen to smell, to taste? You know, for me, one of my favorite is to go and sit in the garden with a cup of tea, right? That works on a kind of temperature, soothing, a taste, a smell, and being in this kind of peaceful setting. So working with that kind of sensory stuff can help really take some of the intensity out of that ramped up nervous system. So that's my starting point. What I usually run into quite quickly from there is two main barriers. One is time, because we're all, for the most part, time poor. And the second is women giving themselves permission to do that, especially in this busy phase of life. A lot of the people, by the time they see me, can recognize that actually I haven't put myself first for a long time. I've been doing all of these things for other people. And yeah, the idea of even stopping for 10 minutes to have a cup of tea in the garden feels like a real stretch. And so starting to work in that space about what do you need to give yourself permission to do this? What would you want for your best friend or your own daughter, the people that you care about? Would you want them to feel like they had to go and meet everyone else's needs while they felt frazzled and overwhelmed? Or would you encourage them to make these short windows of time, right? It doesn't have to be an hour-long yoga class. It can be 2 minutes of relaxed breathing, 5 minutes of sitting in the garden having a cup of tea. That makes it much more manageable to find the time and to give ourselves permission.
Do you find that women don't invest in themselves?
Yeah, yep. Especially in this midlife phase, I think because of those many demands that are on us. And we've had a lot of messages as women, right, about our role as caretakers, caring for others, giving, being generous of ourselves, all of those kind of messages that tend to also have an implicit message that you're less important than everyone else. And so that giving, doing takes a toll. And the metaphor that's often quite useful to come back to is you can't pour from an empty cup. If there's nothing in your tank, how can you possibly be the, person you want to be in your relationships, with your family, at work, all of those other important parts of life? So yeah, that tendency to give and demote your own needs.
Yeah, because I remember when I was going through that kind of at the start of it, when I didn't understand what was going on with my brain, why suddenly I was having panic attacks and anxiety and brain fog and just felt so dumb overall. I remember, how you said find the things that calm you down, that helps you. Well, if I look back, I've got 2 little kids and they weren't coming. I know lots of moms, I love my kids to bits, but I had to find nanny to help me at night in the evenings. So I didn't have to, I was so overstimulated and it was just piling up on top of that anxiety, and I couldn't be around like kids. And I felt, and then it's a guilt. I felt so guilty because I love my kids, but they were triggers. They were the biggest triggers in that moment that I had to hire a nanny to come and do the evening routine while I would sit on the bike and I'll bike or go for a walk because I was just so overstimulated and so anxious that I couldn't calm myself down. And that's amazing because that's another thing, right? Like you have to be caretaker, but then you can't take care of someone because you're so overstimulated by your own little bundle of joy that you love so much, but then they make you feel so horrible.
Absolutely. And little kids in particular are not good at respecting other people's needs, right? They don't comprehend when you say, I just need 5 minutes of quiet. They can't get that, right?
No.
And so the things that even when you can recognize what you need, the ability to get the space for those things can be really, really hard. And so you were able to carve out a way to do that, to have a nanny to take care of that part of the day, right? And what an amazing opportunity to then carve out that time and say, okay, this is really what I need. And so I think that's really powerful, right? To be able to advocate for yourself in that way, to say, this is what is going to make me a better parent and a better person, a better version of myself.
Because when I was experiencing this anxiety was coming with the rage at the same time. So I didn't want to be like that around my kids, to be in this horrible screaming mom that can't control herself. And like you're right, I was a better mom if I didn't have that overstimulated couple of hours and just get myself out of that situation, and they'd been taken care of. Of course, they had dad at home as well, but I still felt like there should be two parents, not just one parent, two parents there and that moment. And like, you're right. I did all of the things that you suggesting I did, and did grounding with my feet on the grass. I went for a walk. I did breathing exercise, which I found 4, 7, 8 was the most beneficial for me. And I found that when I was lying on the floor with my feet up, my heart rate would drop faster if my feet were up against the wall, on the wall, and I was lying down and doing, breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. And that was kind of like real quick calming my nervous system down exercise. So that's interesting.
But if you do that while someone's screaming at you, right, that I need whatever, it's really hard to calm your nervous system.
Well, I found also on one of the apps, FitOn, which is free app, you can do yoga and you can do a quick one, like 12 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever you can pick. And I remember going for like the quick one, 12 minutes, and my kids started to do it with me. And I was like, okay, we'll just do yoga all together. That's absolutely fine. So you do what works. You find the way.
You've got to do what works. That's exactly it. And so figuring out, okay, that's a great example. I can do it with my kids. One of the ones for me, we have in our house some incense sticks that we bought in Bali on a pre-kids holiday, and lighting that, there's this real sensory thing that happens. I can feel like I'm back there lying on the beach. And even if my household is busy and chaotic, having the smell of that helps to just reduce the intensity of that a little bit. And these are the things that we've got to get practical about. When I say one of the barriers is time, that's because life is busy. And if we can create some time by getting help like the nanny, fantastic. If we can't, we've got to get creative about how do I fit in little bits of this stuff that helps to calm and soothe my body.
Yeah, definitely. So going from this, struggle with relationship with kids in this stage of life, a lot of women also struggle with other relationship in their lives during perimenopause because of the anxiety, the rage, the mood swings. The partner suddenly go, what the hell is going on with you? You were such a beautiful, calm person, and now you're psycho. What's happening here? And that's understandable, right? Like, it's not what they're used to. But can you share how this hormonal changes impact relationship, and what advice do you have for women that want to maintain those strong relationship with their partners during this time?
So as you've said, right, there's often this emotional roller coaster, the mood swings, the irritability, the anxiety that comes out, and we tend to launch those difficult emotions at the people we feel safest with, and so that often is our partners, and so they kind of cop it from their end, that they bear the brunt of our frustration and irritability. And in the this perimenopause, menopause phase, there's also a lot of other challenges to our romantic relationships too. Sexual desire changes, intimacy changes, enjoyment of sex can change. That can have a big impact as well. And all of these things, one of the features, particularly in perimenopause, is confusion. Women are so confused about what on earth is going on in my body and why do I feel this way? And if we're confused as the people experiencing it, then of course our partners are going to be confused as well. Who is this person? You're not the person I married. Who has ended up here in my house today? And the roller coaster of emotions mean it's often not the same day to day. I can be totally chill one day and then, off the chart the next day. And so first is to be able to try and be a bit more open and honest in that relationship and discussing those things. One of the things that I think is wonderful to see is men learning more about menopause and starting to understand what it is that actually is happening for women. And so encouraging your partner to educate themselves to learn about this and perhaps giving them some resources. If you read an article or you listen to a podcast that resonates with you, send it on to them to say, hey, this is part of what I'm struggling with, so that you can at least be on the same page. And related to that is not expecting your partner to be a mind reader. We are all guilty of this, right? You should know that I just need whatever it is. How could that person possibly know, right? And so to be able to be more explicit in asking for what you need. This is what I need from you. And again, women are often guilty of kind of suppressing those needs, right? Saying, oh, well, I'll just figure it out. I'll be fine. And even basic things like asking for the bedroom to be at a really cool temperature if you're struggling with temperature regulation and night sweats and hot flushes, for example. Your partner can put on extra pajamas and layers easier than you can manage night sweats and hot flushes, right? So advocating for those things that you need and talking about them. I need for us to have a really cool bedroom so I can get good quality sleep and be less in this mood swing thing for the next day, right? When you put it in those terms, most partners will agree to meet some of those needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It will be very beneficial for women that are listening. So what advice would you give to women who feel overwhelmed by, trying to balance the work, family, personal life, perimenopause, and all of that stuff?
Yeah. First, I would say you're super normal. That is so common to be struggling with that balance. And as we've talked about, there's lots of different parts that you're probably juggling that make you feel that way. And so to be able then to think about how you respond to that juggle. There's a metaphor I often use with people, which is that all the things in life that we want to do and that we care about, if you think of all of them laid out in front of you, and then you've got a blanket and you're trying to kind of put that blanket over all of those things that are important and that you care about, right? But the blanket's never quite big enough. So something always gets a little bit left out in the cold. So then we go, oh, okay, this week maybe I've been neglecting my diet and I haven't eaten very well. Okay, cool. Next week I want to do a little bit better at that. So I pull the blanket over to diet and tuck that in, try and keep that warm under the blanket, but something else gets left out in the cold. Maybe that's my friendships, social relationships. Oh, it's really been a couple of weeks since I really saw any of my friends and I'm missing that social contact. Okay, I'll pull the blanket back over there and really focus on some social time. But now exercise has gone out the window. Okay, well, I'll pull the blanket back over there and tuck that thing in. And this is the juggle. This is what it is like for all of us, right? And so we often respond to ourselves in light of that by beating ourselves up, criticizing ourselves and saying, why am I failing, right? Why can't I get all of these things? And you're really asking, why can't I keep all of these balls in the air? Because there's too many, right? There's never enough time and energy for all of those things. So it's okay to let something slide. Let that thing be the thing out in the cold for today, for this week, but don't leave any one thing out in the cold for too long, right? That's the art of the juggle is, okay, if I neglected it for a little bit, okay, I'll try and kind of go back to that thing and I won't neglect any one important thing for too long and I won't beat myself up when I do neglect it for a little bit because that is normal. That is what we all experience.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. This is such a good advice. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you or work with you, how can they get in touch?
Yeah. So I see clients one-on-one as a psychologist in my office in Tauranga or online. online. So you will find information about me at Allanah Casey Psychology, allannahcasey.com. I also have an online course specifically for women experiencing anxiety in perimenopause and menopause. That info is at womenswellspace.com, womenswellspace.com. So hopefully you'll find support that you need through those avenues.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your knowledge with us.
You're welcome. Pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
If you have any questions about this podcast or about hormones, weight loss, or just healthier lifestyle, please go to our website at lifehackcoaching.co.nz or feel free to email me directly, Anastasia at lifehackcoaching.co.nz.